So a subject that's come up a lot recently in my work has been resentment, my work with recovering addicts. And of course it plagues everybody, but the lingo of recovery would say that resentment is the #1 offender for relapse. Most of the time you're probably not going to relapse, strangely enough, from a sensory trigger, like seeing someone smoke a spliff or a crack pipe, or hearing the tinkling glasses inside a pub or wine bar. That's probably not going to be what it is. It's 90% of the time going to be emotions, dysfunctional emotions. And the #1 offender, famously, for addicts in recovery is resentment. So there's a quote in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that goes something like, resentment is the dubious luxury of ordinary men. Meaning non-addicted people can afford in some kind of a way to have it and not have too drastic consequences, but we can't, because it will lead to relapse and, you know, potential death. So it's pretty high stakes for us. Now in 12 steps you do what's called a moral inventory, or house cleaning we call it, which means rooting out these kinds of unhealthy negative emotions, because there are healthy negative emotions. I mean, anger in the right context could of course be functional. Like if somebody attacks your elderly mother on the street, you're not going to lie down on the floor and tell them you're a pacifist, are you? That's the bit where your pacifism kind of runs into a brick wall, really, isn't it? Because you've got something to defend, and you know, it's your job to do it. And if it's anger that is the primal emotion that stirs you to do that in defense of somebody that needs you, then it's served a good purpose. Resentment, if you break the word down, is not that. Resentment is resentment, resending the anger again and again and again. So it lives in your head, rent-free as it were. The other person, the offender, lives in your head rent-free. And with addicts, it plagues them, it drives them crazy, and eventually they've got no recourse but to resolve their unregulated and dysfunctional emotions by using a drug to make themselves feel better. Therefore, when you're in recovery, you have need of discovering all the situations in which you suffer at the hands of that particular emotion. And of course it will mostly be directed at people, possibly institutions as well, but in general, people. You're not going to be resentful with dogs or lions, or if you are, you're probably pretty crazy, because we don't apportion blame to them. We don't see them as really responsible, obviously, for what they do. What they do is just animal instinct, and they can't do anything else. Therefore, strangely, we don't tend to have resentment for those types of things. It's people that we have resentments with. Therefore, in recovery, when you get to step 4 is the notorious moral inventory step, and you inventorize resentments first, followed by fears. I'll do another video on that. Obviously, that's not fear of lions and sharks, that's emotional fears, existential fears, everyday fears, things that hold you back. And then we also do an inventory on shame or harms done, particularly in relationships and things like that, maybe marital problems, affairs, things like that, things that create shame. So the first one is resentments. I'll talk about that one in this video specifically. So 12 steps would do it like this. They'd probably do something like a 5-column inventory. So in the first column would be the name of the person or the institution, let's say John. The second column would say, what did they do? Which might be, John didn't promote me when I deserve a promotion. He's a terrible boss. Third column would be, what did that hurt, threaten, or affect in me? Well, obviously money, hurt feelings, loss of self-esteem, etc. And then the fourth column is the gold dust. That's the golden nugget. That column says, what did I do? Or my part. Sometimes you call it that. My part in it. It might be something like, well, I've always been chippy at work with John. He's my boss. I don't like him. I make it quite clear that I don't like him. And so is it any wonder then that he promoted the other guy who, whilst perhaps not so diligent, perhaps not as well qualified, people are people, and, you know, maybe he just prefers working with the other guy to you, and you did play a part in it. And then you dig deeper and you can probably remember back sometimes when you were really quite obnoxious to John in a way that your other colleague wasn't, and that's why he got promoted. And so while it might still sting, it might even be unfair, you can see it's not 100%, 0% type situation. It's not black and white. There's some part you played. And what will happen when you start to really dig down is you'll see character traits. Once you'll see patterns. Once you do a number of these resentment examples, and there might be 30, 40, 50 of them, you will see under my part, you will list your character traits: chippy, obnoxious, constantly late, whatever it is. And if you see those appearing again and again and again, then you know quite a lot of this is on you. And of course, our philosophy in sort of 12-step culture is it's not really relevant what the other person is doing because you can't change them. So you're left with yourself. Your only power is to change yourself. That's the only place you have real agency. Okay? So that final column then will say name for amends. And that would probably be John. So you're going to amend the situation, give restitution, and start to repair your relationships, your standing, your status, your opportunities, and all that, your life, in fact, by taking action. So you might sit down with John and say, look, I know I didn't get the promotion. I've been very, very pissed off since then. But as you know, I've had my issues. Just want you to know, I get it. I see why I wasn't chosen. I'm going to carry on being a constructive team member. Or, with the best will in the world, I think it's time for me to move on. But I don't have a grudge against you. And then sit back over the next year and watch your life start to change as people react differently to you. It's not even spooky, this stuff. It's just straight up common sense with regard to social networking and the way that humans behave and orientate themselves in relationships, right? So funnily enough, this exact technique is also used in CBT, which I don't think has been widely recognized, right? So, well, the precursor of CBT, to be precise, which is REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, which Albert Ellis developed from Stoic roots, from Stoic philosophy, from Socratic dialogue, that sort of tradition, where you ask yourself questions or somebody else asks you searching questions. And his technique is called ABC, and it's exactly like a 12-step moral inventory. Even though Albert Ellis was one of the greatest critics of AA, his technique, which came after AA's 12 steps, is remarkably similar, and it goes something like this. A stands for adversity, or what's triggered you. What's the adversity that triggered you? B stands for belief system. What are you thinking about it? And it's probably a bit nutty what you're thinking about it. If you don't have any bent out of shape emotions, you've no need to do an ABC. So if you're sitting down doing an ABC on paper, this CBT technique, then you've got some kind of dysfunctional emotion going on. And C stands for consequences. Now, that's not consequences of the A, the adversity. It's the consequences of the B, your belief system. Right? A doesn't equal C. John not promoting you does not equal resentment. Like, the Buddha wouldn't have got resentful in that scenario, theoretically, but you did. So there's something different going on in your brain from the Buddha's brain, right? And that's your belief system. So A plus B equals C. The trigger, John not promoting you, plus your nutty belief system about it, I should always get what I want, equals C, bent out of shape feeling, in this case, resentment. And in that tradition, the Stoic tradition, Socratic tradition, CBT, which of course is one of the most evidence-based forms of psychotherapy, in that tradition you would then dispute your B beliefs. kind of like a lawyer, you know, prosecution. You'd ask yourself awkward questions like, where's the evidence that my colleague was leapfrogged me at work unfairly? Look at your performance, look at his performance, dig deeper, have a look. What did you do? So very similar to 12 steps, right? And then they have the final section E, because it's actually A, B, C, D, E. E stands for effective new action. What are you going to do to change it? So, yeah, a lot of similarities actually between 12 steps and the most evidence-based form of psychotherapy, which not a lot of people seem to notice. Obviously, AA and NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and the other 12-step fellowships are explicitly spiritual programs, although the definition of your definition of a higher power is entirely down to you. So not really a religion or a cult, because in my understanding, religions and cults must have an agreed definition of God, right? And that's certainly not 12 steps. 12 steps is non-denominational. It is non-sectarian, right? So it's up to you. So yeah, a lot of similarities there. I'd also put maybe another spin on it. So think of it like this. My sponsor, Jim, he had a sponsor. It's a guy called Don. Don was a Native American guy. And he described resentments like this. So this is like the native spirituality tradition view of resentments, if you like, which also fits. Imagine that your resentments are kind of like boulders. In fact, we used to call them resentment boulders. And you've got to pull those boulders out of the stream, right? Because that stream is the spirit, I'd call it. If you're not comfortable with religious terminology, then you could call it high spirits or good functioning or being well, right? You could take God, that classic God, to just mean good, orderly direction, something like that. So it doesn't quite matter. But that's the stream, that's the river, like this one behind me, full of boulders. And that can't flow when the boulders really start to stack up. They will form some kind of a dam. So you're not going to have a free flow of your good functioning, your high spirits or the spirit, if it's blocked up with lots of resentment boulders. So you've got to fish them out. So I thought that's quite a lovely metaphor for what you're trying to do in removing resentments. You're trying to get the good flow of the mental health. You can call it good mental health or good energy, whatever, however you like to conceptualize it. But it isn't going to flow when it's dammed up with resentment boulders. So yeah, that's my short video on resentments. I'll do another one on fears.